History is often told in sweeping sagas. Vast canvases of conflict painted over years, even centuries. We talk of the 100 Years' War, the 30 Years' War, the interminable Cold War. But then, there's the Anglo-Zanzibar War of 1896. This wasn't a saga. This was barely a skirmish. This was the historical equivalent of forgetting your keys, realizing they're in your hand, and going back to what you were doing. All in a blistering 38 minutes. The shortest recorded war in history. Let's dive in. Our story unfolds on Zanzibar, an island sultanate off the East African coast. For centuries, it was a vital hub for trade, particularly the lucrative spice trade, and unfortunately, the deeply abhorrent slave trade. By the late 19th century, in the frantic scramble for Africa, European powers were carving up the continent. Britain, having signed the Heligoland-Zanzibar Treaty with Germany in 1890, had cemented its position as the dominant colonial power here, establishing a protectorate.
A protectorate, you see, means the Sultan is perfectly free to rule, so long as he rules precisely as we tell him to. Especially on matters of succession and, of course, the rather unsavory business of slavery.
The incumbent ruler, Sultan Hamad bin Thuwaini, was precisely the kind of monarch the British adored, compliant, progressive, and agreeable to their suggestions, particularly concerning the abolition of the slave trade, which was a core British policy objective, often, and conveniently, used to justify imperial expansion. Hamad died rather suddenly on August 25, 1896. Now, for the British, this was a clear signal for the installation of their preferred successor, a chap named Hamad bin Muhammad, a thoroughly modern, pro-abolition sultan. But fate, or rather, ambition, had other ideas. Within hours of Hamad's death, Khalid bin Barghash, a more headstrong and nationalist-leaning cousin, stormed the palace. He declared himself the new sultan, rallied about 2,800 armed supporters, a mix of palace guards, armed civilians, and former slaves, and even managed to get hold of some antiquated artillery and the royal yacht, the HHS Glasgow. He was ready to play hardball.
This throne is mine by right, and I shall not be dictated to by foreign powers.
Unfortunately for Khalid, a specific clause in the 1886 treaty with Britain stipulated that no new sultan could ascend the throne without explicit British approval. And Khalid had skipped that rather important step.
This simply will not do. One simply must follow the rules of succession. Especially our rules of succession.
Cave immediately dispatched messages to Khalid: stand down by 9 a.m. on August 27, or face the full might of the Royal Navy. To underscore his point, 5 British warships, the cruisers HMS Philomel and HMS Raccoon, and the gunboats HMS Thrush, HMS Sparrow, and HMS Mohawk, under the command of Rear Admiral Harry Rawson, positioned themselves menacingly in Zanzibar harbor, their guns trained on the palace.
As the deadline approached, Cave sent one final message.
We do not want to open fire, but unless you obey my orders we shall certainly do so.
Khalid's reply was, effectively,
Bring it on.
At 8:55 a.m., Khalid sent a final, desperate plea asking for negotiations. Cave replied tersely that there was no time for negotiations.
Right then, lads. 5 minutes to showtime. Let's make this snappy. I've got a debriefing to attend.
Exactly at 9 a.m., when Khalid had still not surrendered, Rawson gave the order to open fire. The disparity in firepower was astronomical. The ancient bronze cannons of Khalid's palace guard were no match for modern naval artillery. The shelling was devastatingly effective. Within minutes, the palace's defenses crumbled. The HHS Glasgow, Khalid's single royal yacht, attempted a valiant, if utterly futile, counterattack against HMS Thrush. It was immediately sunk.
Perhaps we should have taken the diplomatic route.
As the palace burned around him and his men fell, Khalid made a break for it, fleeing through a back exit and finding asylum in the nearby German consulate. This move complicated matters for the British, as international law meant they couldn't simply snatch him from foreign diplomatic soil. By 9:38 a.m., just 38 minutes after the first shot, the firing ceased. The war was over. The cost for Zanzibar, roughly 500 casualties, dead or wounded, primarily from the palace guard and those within the palace grounds. For the British, a single wounded petty officer. Khalid would eventually be handed over by the Germans in 1916 during World War I, when Britain finally had leverage. But that's a story for another time. The immediate aftermath saw the British install their preferred candidate, Hamad bin Muhammad, who, naturally, abolished slavery and proved a reliably subservient ruler. And so, the Anglo-Zanzibar War entered the history books as a bizarre footnote, a brutal but blindingly brief demonstration of overwhelming imperial power. It serves as a stark reminder, if you're going to defy a global superpower, especially one with cannons the size of small cars, perhaps ensure your own navy consists of more than one rather quaint wooden boat. And maybe, just maybe, answer your phone when they call. For all you history buffs who want to dive deeper, I've put a full list of the books, authors, and resources I used, including a credit for that map, down in the description below.
And there you have it. If you enjoyed this dive into historical madness, do us a favor and lay siege to that like button. It really helps the channel.
For more bonkers battles and ridiculous regimes, conquer the subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Let me know in the comments what piece of history hysteria you want to see covered next. Until then, thanks for watching.